All right. I guess we are live now. Please let me know if everything is working, if audio is coming through, and things like that. Um, I just was messing with the streaming software, so I just want to make sure everything is still working properly. Thank you, everybody that has been waiting. We are going to be demoing how to make and design a shoe in Gravity Sketch today. You might notice there's a little thumbnail of my head on the feed here, just kind of to let everybody know there's still a human, behind the computer. So feel free to ask questions during the live, and we'll get started. So I'm going to jump into VR, and I'm going to take you through some steps. And let me see here. We'll get right to it. Let's see. I started doing a sketch here already, but I might just remove it and delete it. So again, thank you everybody for joining. So today we're going to be doing a shoe sketch inside of Gravity Sketch, and we're going to be doing pretty much an entire shoe, the sole, the upper, some different fabric details, laces, all the good stuff. And I'm just going to show you some best practices for getting a shoe out of Gravity Sketch, and how you can use that information to further down your pipeline. So I have gathered some reference images already. So I don't really know what the design is going to look like quite yet, but I was doing some looking around, and I was fascinated by birds for some reason. It just kind of stuck out to me, and particularly the shoebill stork, which is this bird here, and it's just such a wild looking thing, and they're really big birds, and they do fly. They're huge, and they look something straight out of like Jurassic Park. Kind of crazy. They're really interesting. I recommend watching videos about them. They're pretty cool animals. So I'm going to try and use the shoebill stork as some reference, as well as some of these other birds here. It's a type of pelican family. I've got a duck here. I don't remember what kind of duck that is, but yeah, I just like the textures and the colors. So we're going to see if we can take some of the colors from this pelican here, take some of the texturing. I like the purity and the white sort of coloring of this duck here, and then the shoebill I think has an interesting beak, and so we're going to try and tie all that together somehow. Also, I just like this sort of like transparent upper on this shoe here, so we might try and incorporate some transparency. That's kind of a popular thing in shoes at the moment, that I've seen at least. So yeah, let's get with it. So some things I want to like cover before we really get into it. If you're designing a shoe for production, and you are trying to not just design a cool shoe, but you actually want it to be useful outside of Gravity Sketch, you can actually measure your designs, and we've covered this in some other videos, but using the tool belt, you can actually make measurements and evaluate sort of like how your design is dimensioning out, roughly, by using the tape measure there. And you can also bring in a shoe last. So if I go to free OBJs and I go over to shoe last men's athletic, we have one already here. So free OBJs, this is a folder that already comes with Gravity Sketch, so you can access all these free 3D files inside Gravity Sketch. And we're just going to plop it here into the import gizmo here. Let's see. I'm going to put this on this layer and lock it. Actually, I'm going to start another layer. I'm going to put them here. Let's see. Actually, an interesting way, a good way of scaling down. Sometimes it works, is using the grid to scale down. Oops. Turn that off now. So, okay, yeah, so we got our sketch and our shoe last here. I'm going to turn off the sketch here for a little bit. And turn another layer. So this is a, just an OBJ that we brought in. We can convert that to sub D, and so now we can actually pull these points around and edit this shoe last. And another cool thing too is we have actually a soft select feature. So if you if you move your joystick up and down, that's your selection sphere size, right? Everybody knows that, right? But what you can do is you can actually grab your grip trigger and then pull down on the joystick, and that will bring in a second sphere, and that's your soft select. That basically turns your outer sphere into a soft selection. So now we can sort of gradually grab the neighboring vertices and more organically adjust the shape of our OBJ. So that's a really good trick. What we can also do is turn this all the way smooth, so now we have a smooth looking shoe last. It's a little more accurate to life. And so you can edit this shoe last to look however you want. You can add more detail to it if you like, and continue working on it. So that's that. I'm going to turn our sketch on again because I already began sort of a rough sketch. I'm going to not really reference this shoe last very much. I'm just going to go for the more stylized sketch that I was working with. But it's generally kind of the shape around the last there. It's just to show you that you can really work within around constraints and work around real world constraints there. So if I take my my tape measure out, this is like measuring to, I don't know, 10.5 inches in length. So I can understand how big something is. One last thing I want to show before I really start getting into the design of this and getting into it is you can actually bring in scans as well. So if you have a shoe that you'd like to work off top of, you can actually bring in the scan data of that shoe and the texture. So I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to go to our shoe design folder. I think we've already brought it in. Yeah. So we've got this here, and I'll explain that in a minute. So we go back to our file structure. We're going to go to our prefabs button here. We're going to go to our import models, and we are going to go to, let's see, gotta find the folder. It's kind of deep in there. Shoe design, Puma, source, Puma low. So this is the OBJ, all right? So this is actually a scanned shoe, Puma shoe, and you notice that there's no textures on it. Well, if you know anything about textures in Gravity Sketch, you can actually bring in images like this, and you can also use them as textures. So if I draw a stroke like this, all the images in my scene are now actually options as textures. So I can take this pelican one, and now I'm using that as the material. So I can draw, and it kind of definitely, it warps around it, because there's no UVs on these models. But here's the cool thing, this map was generated for this model specifically. So whoever built this, actually I can tell you who built it. I want to definitely give them a shout out, and that person is Grafi, Grafi. He's an artist on sketchfab.com, and I've also linked to this shoe on the description for this video. So go and check it out. Grafi on Sketchfab. Thank you very much for this cool model. So this shoe here was scanned, and then the UVs were baked or developed in some other program, and this is actually the map that fits perfectly on this shoe, and you'll see that in a minute. So if I grab the shoe and I select this texture map here, it maps perfectly to the shoe, and now you can see, so there's no shadows on this right now. It's because the material is just flat material. So if we go to basic material, now we have shadows as well and everything. We even got some of that bounced light from the environment coming off the shoe here. So we can actually remove that and the texture stays on the shoe. So we can have a fully textured, realistic shoe in Gravity Sketch, and we can start sketching around it. So let's see. So that's, yeah. So we can, design around a real world shoe. But it's also a great tip if you want to bring in scan data in Gravity Sketch. It's definitely a fun technique. So I'm going to just put that over there. Let's turn the shoe last off. Yeah, that's the last. And this is the sketch. I'm just doing a little bit of file or layer organization here. And then this is our reference. We're just gonna have that there. And I'm just gonna put the scan on a different layer actually, because I don't know if I want it there the whole time. So I'm gonna put the scan in there, turn that off, go to my sketch layer here. I'm also gonna go back to my regular stroke material because I don't want any of the textures. So let's turn off the last and let's see what we've got going on here. So I started a little bit of a rough sketch here based off of the beak shape and some of these forms. And you might notice that this is a completely mirrored, perfectly mirrored sketch. And that is because it's just easier to work in a mirrored mode with shoes, and then what you can do is you can bake the mirror on these strokes and then make it asymmetrical the way it needs to be. So it's just a workflow for making things faster, even though eventually they might be asymmetric. So it's just a good workflow. And there's many ways to make shoes, there's many ways to make things in general in Gravity Sketch. So by no means is the way that I go about this the only way to do it. It's just for this design and this demo, this is just the way that I've chosen to do it. So, please experiment. It's up for creative exploration to each designer, each artist, and how they go about these things. Let me just make sure that everything else is set up here. Got to get my virtual desktop. So Calvin says there's no other way we can scale it down if everything is made by using mirror, or how do we move everything and want to copy and move it right next to each other when I group them and try to move, it splits into pieces. Yeah. So there's workarounds. So let's just cover that real quick. So there's one thing you can do is if you want to like duplicate this and have like another version, you can move it along the, I think this might be the y-axis, depends on what program we're talking about, but you can move it along this way and you still have the mirror, you can keep working, all of that. If you want to move it to the side, it will split because it's mirrored. What you can do is you can go through each one of these strokes, and you can bake the mirror, and that will make it basically it's not mirrored anymore. And so what we can do is we group it. You can see this piece that we bake the mirror on, it's now carrying over. So that's a way to do it. Another thing you can do is you can grab all of this to go to the import models, and we grab all of this and we place it here in make prefab, clear it, call it shoe bill sketch. We should have it in here now. So you see we've got the sketch here, shoe bill sketch. If you grab it, you can bring it into our scene. And so now everything is baked. So if I go into edit mode here for this stroke, it's not mirrored any longer. And this is grouped, so we can actually ungroup it now too. So we can grab all these pieces and move them around. So that's a workaround for just baking everything and then moving it asymmetrically. So that hopefully that answers your question there. So let's just get right to it. I'm gonna move forward with the design. I kind of started to sketch out a Puma logo here. I mean, why not? We could go the Puma route. I just kind of did it. Maybe that means we should just go for it. Just gonna kind of like adjust that, make it a little more Puma looking. But let's just kind of block this in here. So right now we've got a sole sort of sketched in. We've got an upper. What are some key elements that we can pull into our design here? So what are some things, what are some unique things? And this is the cool thing about sketching Gravity Sketch that I'm just realizing is, I deleted just that bit of the line there, and it's completely almost changed like what kind of shoe this even is. So, if we just stopped it there, and the opening was more like this, it's a completely different shoe now. Whereas if we grab this point, we can extend it, maybe slope this a little more. And this is like the tongue now. It's like carrying up all the way to the top. And we've got this kind of, so it's more of a sneaker now, kind of. It just completely changes the context. So I'm imagining more of like a lifestyle type shoe, maybe not so much an athletic shoe, but something a little more stylish. And see if we can just pull in some of these forms here. I was really intrigued by a lot of these shapes on this duck. I'm not sure how you can maybe use some of it, but I don't want to spend we can spend long amounts of time working off of inspiration, but at some point you just got to get moving, right, with a design. So let's try and get a nice shape here, and if we feel like we can start bringing in some of the inspiration, we can just do that. So the sole, I'm definitely thinking it should be something, I'm liking a thicker sole. That's kind of what I want with this design. I just think thick soles are cool, and so let's just go with that. As far as like what the detail is on the sole, I'm not really sure yet. So it could have some of these unique sort of feathered details in it somehow, where it's you know, kind of doing this kind of thing. You know, some sort of feathered look. But let's, you know, and I also want to work in some laces here too, so get that going. But I'm not entirely sure how we want to do those yet, so we'll leave those alone. I think I want to stick with this. I think this is pretty unique. This is directly from the shoebill, the design of the shoebill bird. You know, it's funny I say design, you know, because in nature, you know, nature, designed by nature, right? So the tip of the shoebill's bird has like this point on it, and I was watching some videos, and apparently it's to like basically impale their their meal, so they can eat it. So with that in mind, we'll keep that little thing. I think it's pretty unique. I've never seen a shoe like the toe of a shoe that looks quite like that. So we're gonna keep that, and it's got like this ridge too that runs along the top of the beak there. So I wonder if we can incorporate that somehow. Maybe. And I think it's so pointy right here. It needs to be, I think, maybe squared off to make it look a little more normal. Just kind of square it off a little bit. Just trying some different things here. You know, what we can do is we can just try some stuff, and then, you know, we can copy the sketch and try some other stuff, you know, until we find something that kind of works. It kind of looks like a mustache on the front there. It's funny that we're inspired by a shoebill bird when it's like a Puma kind of like branded shoe, apparently. So that's kind of interesting shape. Let's move that out. Let's get rid of the mustache. And let's maybe get a different, almost like a different shape of this for this shoe. You know, that shoebill kind of has like more of a arched front there. So I wonder if we can like incorporate that somehow. I don't know if I like the way it looks. Maybe if we just do it a little more subtly, we can kind of make it cool. This is like, it could turn more, this might turn more into like kind of like a slipper, potentially. So let's bring that last in here and see how that is comparing. Bring that back. Bring some of these lines back to kind of match up more with the last here. Right. So we want something like that. Let's turn the last off now. Boldening this line here. Just gonna kind of complete the shape. Let's see, connect that. It's kind of an interesting shape there. And I wanted laces, you know, because I think that's an important thing to show. So maybe we just had a few laces up at the top. Let's look at some of our reference here too. See if we got anything. Let's see. Do. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Something interesting going on here. So what if you had like this, kind of like this socked inner part, and then this outer part that was like had some like cool laces. So if I go here, I don't know, that could be something interesting. All right, I'm kind of liking that. Let's keep going in that direction. Let's check the comments too. I want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Let's see. So I think I'm gonna move forward with this. I'm liking whatever this is, and let's adjust that there. I think that's more closer to what it's naturally would be. All right, so how do we want to do this? We want it just to be flat, kind of sloping back. What makes more sense? What if it was kind of taller? Like, what if the sock was kind of more extended? Could be interesting, right? You can go that route. You can change it, adjust it later. So let's go that route. Now let's see if we can get more of a clear direction on our on our sole. Actually, I want to play around with this a little more real quick because I think there could be something interesting with that. If I go back to the shape of the stroke here, because I don't want that to be flat anymore. How can we make this? I kind of want this part of the sole to be like beefier, maybe. You know what, let's just leave that alone for now. I'm going to do that when we get to the asymmetrical phase. So, let's work on the sole here for a minute. So what we can do is kind of make this, I want to make this a little flatter. This is a really important part of the shoe because this kind of defines like the attitude of the shoe a lot, is the sole. And that the bottom of it, just like, you know, if it's kind of flat and straight like this, it totally changes it versus you know, something that has a little bit more of a kind of an arc to it. So kind of just playing around with, you know, do we want sort of something interesting like that? Pull these out. Let's just get rid of that because I don't really want that. Can kind of make it really come up towards the front. It's kind of interesting. Pull that back because we didn't really pull that. So right now we're just really, you know, kind of playing around with like shapes and curves here, and trying to find something cool, something that is interesting. And so we'll like kind of have some knobby things up here. I just think that would be nice. Some of the other things here. I feel like this could be really interesting. Like the eye, the way this kind of is kind of pillowy, like around where the laces would be here. That could be something interesting. Interesting. Okay. I think I might be onto something here, people. So, I'm just going to draw some section lines here. And what I mean by section line is it kind of defines the profile of a surface. So that means, like when I build a surface in between here, this line will define, you know, is it arcing or is it concave, you know? So I want it to be arcing. I want it to be I want it to have like a round to it. And then I want that round to carry all the way in this area here as well. It can carry on over. I think that'd be really cool. And then we can almost, man, I wonder if instead of like having instead of having this be like a separate piece of fabric, like what a lot of shoe makers will do to make their logos, they'll actually have their logo be like another piece of fabric, you know, sewn on. The Puma logo could be just from stitching. So like all of this is technically like one piece of fabric, but the stitching is like creasing this part of the fabric, so you can see the design in the stitching that way. So it's, if you don't understand, you'll see when we start getting into the surfacing. So I'm gonna go that route because I think that's cool. And then I'm going to define this part here. Simplify points. The simplify points button is really useful if you have like a bunch of points on a stroke. It's kind of turning into like sort of like a boot in a way, which that's cool. You know, it's So if we had like that eye of the duck, and it kind of tapered like this, that could be cool. Could be interesting. Or maybe it tapered the other way. Could taper down. Could be interesting. Kind of gives it some eyes, sort of, doesn't it? It's a little bit interesting. We'll see how that works. And then I'm just going to give this a little bit of thickness. Find that. All right. I think this is starting to. I think you're kind of blocked in this thing. Let's make this a prefab and make it asymmetrical. I'm just going to delete this other shoe because we're not going to go that route. And so if you missed it before, I'm just going to take this shoe and I'm going to I'm going to take this, drop it into prefab, call it shoe bill sketch, save it, and then delete that, pull this in, drop in there, check mark it. So now we've got it, and it's completely grouped, and the mirroring is all baked. It came in at the right size because we built it right in Gravity Sketch. I'm going to break the mirror. And so now what I can do is I can start taking, I can start making the shoe asymmetrical. Just going to pull it in here. Pull that in, and going to kind of adjust this. I wonder if we really want the logo like on the inside. Like, we could do something else. You can continue this line over. We'll probably want to turn the mirror off because we're not currently working in mirrors. Turn that off. Or we just keep it. Let's just keep it. I think it makes sense for it to be there. So we'll keep the logo there. And let's just fix some of this sole transition here. And I think let's pull the logo strip in here. Simplify that. Oh, it's really thin. Okay. Can do that. Make these fit together a little better. So, there we've got our shoe. And we need some other openings here for the laces. Thinking that's how we'll do it. And Just kind of thinking through the design here. So we wanted that to kind of be poofy, right? I mean, doesn't that mean that this is poofy as well? I think it does. And so I'm trying to think of what will complement that on the sole. Like, how can we complement that design on the sole? This would be kind of interesting. Let's start building in the surfaces. So I just want to see this thing, the surfacing on it. Let's start with the upper, because we're pretty clear on how we want that to look. So a lot of how I start with the surfacing and gravity sketch is if it's like a, especially like a shoe or boat or plane, all like stuff that we want to be closed surfaces. I just start with a cube, and the reason for that is it's closed and it's quads. It's closed and it's quads. So we have a cube here, and what we're going to do is we're going to turn it into sub D. We're going to delete the middle face, and then we're going to mirror it. We're going to connect it together. That way we have a mirrored, sort of a mirrored form here. We're just going to pull it, all through our design here. And we're just like almost imagining like the lowest poly version of our design. So we've got that, pulling these down. Matching with the shoe, the profile of the shoe. This is probably going to be more down here. This is going to get kind of dense in this area, so we just want to give it some good breathing room. So this is like kind of a low poly version of our upper, sort of. And so what we need to do is we need to subdivide this, delete that area, because it wraps around. And you want to pull that down. And then we're going to close it down in here. So turn off that. So there. And we're going to follow our model here. So there we go. That's kind of like the low poly version of our design. Now what we can do is we can make this smooth and get a better idea of what's actually going on. So this is what it looks like smoothed. So what we can do now is start to manipulate, pull our design into the shape that we need it to be. Pull that out here. So we're just pulling the points down. And we're just trying to fill it in as accurately as possible. So the key thing to think about, the key thing to be aware of when working this way is to just keep it simple. You know, don't get too complicated too fast. You know, it's really easy to add complexity, so just don't be eager to add more edge loops just quite yet. Just massage the form, get it to where you want it to be, and you know, take your time. And so now what we want to do is, I wonder if I should have built it differently, kind of, but what we want to do is we want that crease where the Puma design is. So if we take our, we actually probably should make another layer and just call it surface. So surface here, we're gonna, actually it should probably be called upper, but yeah, we'll just call it upper. And if we kind of hide it just a little bit, we can kind of see the path we need to take here. So if we maybe shift these over, and I guess there are going to be some triangles no matter what. So I'm going to take this, take the knife tool, and draw the path of our logo all the way to the center, and then again draw the path of our logo. Center, and you won't be able to add edge loops, but what we can do is add just more geometry. So let's see what that's getting us. Now, I think there's probably just a better way to do it. Just trying to think. That would be, I'm going to go back to low poly here, on smooth mode. We also got the, so the cool thing about this too is making with a cube is that it's a closed mesh. And so you can actually print it when it's all said and done. So just thinking around in my head, because what we want is we want the creasing here. We might have to do this a little differently. Going to open up the side here. I think what I want to do is try and trace it this way. there, make another edge loop, and connect here. Got that. It's kind of like, it's honestly kind of like a puzzle, to be honest. Really hope this works. I'm still learning best practices with sub D, but I think I'm onto something here. Here. And then, so just something I want to say here is, if you've got very specific forms, like that you want to cut out of a sub D object, like what we're trying to do here, it's usually better in like this low poly mode to just trace it out than to kind of start with the big blob like I did before. Because when you want to add creases and details and things like that, it'll follow the path you traced, and you know you're more likely to get the result that you want. And if you watch the Boba Fett demo last week, that was a similar approach that I took. With I basically discovered that I needed to trace out the cheek detail polygon by polygon in sub D, so that when I add the creases, it would crease in the right spots. It's just a better way of working in sub D. So now you see we've got actually this path of the logo here. I guess I need to make another edge loop there. Connect those together. It's really satisfying doing this, and then seeing it all come together. So now this is going to be a little different when we smooth it all out. It's a little bit crazy. But if we sort of massage some of these areas in the bottom, get them where they need to be. If we add a edge loop, you can now see that we've got an edge loop where we want our logo to be. So add some edge loop there. And I'm just, in case you're wondering, I'm just using the index finger trigger here to add edge loops. Add another one there. So now we got like this tight crease, which is what we want. And so now we can kind of get this sort of pillowed effect on things like we were talking about earlier. We can start to follow some of our sketch. Like I'm doing here. So now we're just trying to match it up. So there, finally got it. So that's what we were looking for. So I don't know if I actually want this to like be pillowy where the logo is, or if I want it to be like flat. But either way, we got the result that we wanted, and that's easy to change because we just a matter of taking these points and you know, bowing them out. So we're gonna take this down. And also, good practice is saving your work. So let's go ahead and save this. You can save in the cloud or just locally. If you're a Quest user, I recommend just saving in the cloud. That way you can access your designs on Landing Pad. Puma Stork. We'll call it Puma Stork. So let's turn off our sketch a little bit and see how everything's looking. So you see we've got that shape going there. Pull that out. And what we can do is we can make it even tighter by adding another edge loop. So now we've got like a really tight logo there. So now we're going to be working here with the hole. So I'm just adding some more edge loops. And if you find some kind of areas of tightness that you want to loosen up, you can always take your smooth tool in the sub D tool menu and loosen up some of these vertices here. Relax them just a little bit. It's always good practice. And so I was trying to get this hole here. Add another edge loop there. If we just connect that hole on the inside, we can have an actual hole there. It's looking very bird-like. Just kind of tightening this up here. This out. Now let's get the sole going. So that's really what's going to pull this together, because right now it's looking kind of weird, but you know, we're just going to keep going. So I make another layer. We're going to call it sole, and we're going to do as we did before. We're going to start with a cube and convert it to sub D. Delete the face, mirror it, connect it together, and start extruding. So just gonna start with that. And if we smooth it out, give a little bit of a sharpness on the edge there. Kind of give it some of a little more edge on the sole here. Let's bring this out. that a little sharper. There we go. So what we can do is now we've got that mostly locked in, we can kind of make it asymmetrical. It's like kind of interesting. Make this too cluttered in here, but it's kind of cool. It's interesting. I kind of like that. That's kind of cool. All right. Now what we can do is we can make it, we can bake the mirror, and now we can start shaping it to the other side. Actually, we didn't really do that with that either, so we're going to bake that. And we're going to bring the sketch back out again. So we're going to make sure we're matching up to everything. Now I'm going to hide the sole real quickly. So we, like I mentioned before, we can have that soft select. We can kind of softly move everything inward. It's probably going to screw up some of the stuff we have going on here. That's okay. And then turn on the sole. Move some of that inward. Forward. Pull this out so it matches. Now we got like some cool forms going on here. It's kind of interesting. And we'll pull this out like we did on the other side. And it's cool because you can see how these surfaces kind of terminate, you know. So as we add more edge loops, things get a little crazy here towards the front. I'm gonna maybe try and smooth some of that out and kind of release some of the tension there. We don't really want anything to be too tight up in this area, so we can smooth all that out. We can get our soft select, kind of move things where we want it to be. Smooth this out again. So if we add an edge loop there, it's going to be kind of crazy. Let's add this secondary sort of sock detail. So if we add another layer, I'm just going to call it sock, but I'm imagining it's like probably like a built-in sock. We're just going to actually start with a surface for this, and I'm going to make it like a darker color. I'm just going to mirror it, mirror that, connect it together, and let's actually take it into low poly mode. It's just easier. I recommend working in polygon and in low poly mode when you're just kind of blocking in sub D, because it just allows you to better evaluate what you're looking at. And then when you want to see what it looks like smoothed out, you can go into smooth mode. So this is like our sock here. Built-in sock detail. And then I want to turn the mirror off because I don't think we need the mirror anymore. Oops. I want it on because we can bake the mirror. There we go. Not turn it off. And then we can go to our smooth mode. Further refine the shape. Pull everything out. And then we can select edge loops. And then we can just take that, pull it down. And so what we've got is sort of like a sock with thickness. Make sure I'm not messing this up. Oh yeah, we're gonna fold that down there. Go. So we can turn off our sketch and really get a good look at what we're doing here. And so one thing that we really haven't done yet is, because we've been doing the surfacing pretty much this entire time, we haven't really gotten into like the stitching details or any of that. So that's like going to be kind of like the next step. So we've basically got this form blocked in. It's really interesting. I wonder if there's some kind of like strap detail we want to put up here. I don't know, something could be cool. I don't know. I'm just going to leave it like that for now. Edge loop around this. I didn't quite put the edge loop where I thought, so maybe do it there. Let's see how we want the shape to look. Do we want it to carry down? Do we want it to be like more closed at the top? Let's get our lace here. It's kind of interesting. See. Let me check the comments real quick because I haven't looked in a minute. Just keep working. Somebody asked about video for a fashion designer. We can certainly cover videos like that too. We're working on more videos to export to other programs. So you know, like programs like Clo and things like that. So stay tuned for some stuff like that. Also, I would recommend go check out the live sketch that I did last week on making Boba Fett. There's some hard surface on that, but there also is like creating his. Well, I guess in that video it's kind of mostly hard surface. But if you use the same technique, like I've been demoing here with Sub D, you know, you could turn this into like a base mesh for a shirt or a dress, add some of the subdivisions like I've been doing here, and then I would take it into like a sculpting program like ZBrush or even Blender, which is free, and you can start sculpting in folds, things like that. And but I think it'd be really cool to do a video on just like fashion. I think that'd be really cool. So, just thinking through the design here and how we want to go about this. So we got sort of that detail. So let's try and play with some other surfaces here that we can get. Don't know if I quite fully know what I'm doing here, but if we just take this why don't we just take like a cube. Because we definitely wanted some of that, right? I'm going to turn off vertical lock because this gets really hard if it's vertical lock is turned on. Just going to take that, move these around. Convert all these to sub D. Smooth them out. Add some edge loops. Honestly, we should just delete these and then just use this one. And so I'm just taking some of these sole details and asymmetrically adjusting them. design here. Just to give a little bit of a sole detail there. I'm not really focusing too much on the bottom of the shoe here. It's almost kind of inconsequential. And then we got this here, so we're gonna just find that. I wonder if we like sort of change the color of that. It could be interesting. So I think like next step, obviously, I think here is like details. So we've got like most everything blocked in. We've got like the sock, got the upper, got the sole. The next thing would be to block in, I think, the detailing. So why don't we just make a layer called details. And I'm just going to treat that as the sort of the like stitching, you know, details and things like that. And we're just gonna let's see if I can put point mode on here. So we got that. So I think I want like some sort of cool color cord following the profile of the logo here. And then what we can do is we can have like a blue, maybe I'm thinking maybe more like a pink. And so we're just trying to add a little more life to this design here. In my opinion, just kind of giving it a little more some visual interest. You know, we can have like another. We could almost have, oh man, we could have like a, I wonder what it would look like, I'm not sure. just feel like there needs to be something else in the front here. Just not really sure what yet, but I mean, this might be the answer. Kind of cool. It's interesting. I think that's cool. And then can like take this edge loop, bring it in, make it like a finished, complete surface. And probably something like that. I might have maybe it was better before. Yeah, something like that, and then that's kind of interesting. Just trying to make it look a little more intentional, less blobby. And then we can like play with the coloring, like maybe it's a different color, maybe it's I think we need something that ties it all together, so something. Problem solving on the go, people. So just going to take the surface tool again and see if we can get something out. we can loop it. That kind of ties it together more, a little better. It's all about tying things together. Get it? Tie together. Let's see. So kind of futuristic looking. We could just like add more edge loops here and do crazy stuff with the logo here, and just, but it might make our geometry kind of crazy. Oops. Do that, and then we can sort of pull this stuff in there. Pull that down. Same thing over here. Pull these down. Alright, we really still need like those laces to tie everything together with. Kind of like a makeshift pull tab here. I think there does need to be a little bit more kind of some like visual intrigue on the sole here. It's that. But let's try and figure out these laces. So I'm thinking, what if it was something that came from the center. Around the outside. It's not like a true like lace or anything, but it's like kind of interesting, at least. So you could have changes to like a circle. Some kind of like tab here. So I think I'm gonna go back to that end caps, and then tab there like that. And then maybe it goes the other way. Maybe instead goes around the inside. This is crazy. You can do like knots and stuff. Pull these down. And then duplicate this here. Actually, I'm not going to mirror that because that's not really working. probably want that to be more like here. There's like so many combinations that this could be. Pretty cool. And then finally, for final touch, I meant to do earlier, but I can take this back to normal, take the stroke back to normal. And then I think we'll just trace it around. All the way around. And then meet the front. I'm gonna loop it. Then I'm just gonna massage it, adjust it. Go. And we're just making it fit with the design all the way around. And there you go. The shoe bill Puma runner. We can like get the text here. That's actually pretty cool. Bring that in. So we've got the shoe bill runner. And that's pretty much it, everybody. You know, so you've got a design here, a shoe design, and we can, you know, export the 3D data of this as an OBJ and bring it into our program of choice for rendering, and continue working on it, sketch over top of it, whatever you like to do. Let's just check on some comments because I haven't looked in a minute. Yeah, thank you everybody for watching. This video will be live as soon as the video's over. Or sorry, it'll be available as soon as the video's over. So you can go back and watch this if you missed it, missed the beginning of it. So feel free to go do that. Watch it over if you missed. We do these every Wednesday, and so make sure to tune in next week for the demo next week. We kind of choose on the fly like what we're going to do, so your suggestions are always welcome as far as what you'd like us to cover. But thank you very much everybody for watching. Appreciate your time. I hope you learned something, and get out there and sketch and share your work on our Instagram. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're posting on all of our channels, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So follow us on all those places and see what's going on. But I just want to thank everybody again, and make sure you tune in tomorrow. We'll be interviewing Ryan Sepper tomorrow, and so that'll be really cool and interesting. But with that, I leave you all. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you very much.